Hello everyone, welcome back. So I'm going to be talking about our symbols in LaTeX again. Okay, so first things first, I added some things to before the document starts. Oh, what is that there? And so one of them is highlighting. So if we add this package, that's one way we can highlight. I'll show you that in a second. To make our margin smaller, because that's what I prefer, this is what I did here. And then to make the table of contents clickable. So I think in a previous video I said some incorrect information. But yeah, this is how I can make it clickable. So see how my cursor changes. So if I want to go to, they're all on the same page right now, but if I want to go to numbers, it'll bring me right there. Okay, fantastic. So let's start with text. Oh. I had tested it out, made sure that that was the right package. Okay, so if I want to highlight text, all I do is I do color box. And so see how it's two things. So in the first one, you say what color you want. So let's say blue, and then we could say hello world. But we have many other colors. So color box, what's one? Cayenne. I think this one's very dark though, it's kind of hard to read. But just as an example, so you can think of some weird, oh, blue is the one that's really dark. Or you could do pink, magenta, purple. I think these are all ones that I've used before. Red, yellow, whatever you would like. There are also ways to define new colors, so you can look that up. It seems very complicated to me, but maybe to some people who are more artsy and understand like the numbers of like art, because I think you have to tell it like this many points yellow, this many points blue or something. I can't remember, but okay, so great. And then I also wanted to talk about some things I left off in numbers that I think are still important to talk about. Oh, end of part one. Okay, so we're in part two, so I guess I'll go after that. So that, all right. So we know things like that, right, are going to be less than, this is going to be greater than, but how do we do less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to? So we do \LEQ. So that's less than or equal to. So that's why the L and then the EQ for equal. And then greater than or equal to. So pretty much any time you want the line to be underneath the symbol, you're going to add EQ at the end. If you go back to our subset and strict subset, you'll notice that that was the only difference between the one with the line underneath it, is it had EQ. Okay. All right. Okay, so now I want to talk about quantifiers. So let's change this to numbers/quantifiers. Okay, so let's talk about for all. So it's kind of simple because it's literally just what it is, right? But if we look at an example and we say for all, let's say n in the naturals or something, let me show you how that's going to look. So they're kind of really right on top of each other. And maybe that doesn't bother you, but for me, I just like them to have a little bit of space, so I just put one or two spaces in between them. And you could just mess around with that. So maybe that's too much space. Let's try just one. And so it's going to be the same thing with exists. So remember, the backwards E means there exists. So this is just going to be, so how the command is just exists. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to jump around a little bit. I want to go back up to sets. I recognize that I didn't talk about the empty set. So it's literally just empty set. So also we're going to have division, remember? So like let's write out a whole statement or else it'll look kind of weird. So this means A divides B. So now you're going to notice they're also right on top of each other. Whenever I use this little symbol here, I just like to put at least one, maybe two spaces between it, just so it doesn't blend in. But maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me and my eyesight. Okay. Now let's do a new section called spacing. So this one's going to be a little bit stranger than the other ones because I can't just like, I don't know, define them. So if I like typed in new page, for example, then it's just going to skip a whole page for me. Okay. So what I mean by this is the first sentence of section or subsection or whatever is not indented. Of course, with these things, there's probably ways for you to reprogram it so that it is indented. But for us, it's not. See how it's right in line and it's not indented. So second line is. So we'll see. So see how it's indented one. So what if you don't want that indent? So you're going to do backslash no indent. And then if you use command, your line will not be indented. Okay, and so notice it doesn't have to be in math mode for it to work. Maybe I should capitalize this I. It's a little strange. Okay, so if you use that command, you'll be all set. And so also notice it tries to point out spelling errors. You can always add to dictionary if things bother you that they don't like. Okay, so what if I want to center a bunch of stuff? So I'm going to hit backslash, I'm going to go begin, and then I'm going to say center. So one thing that I do like about overleaf is it completes it for you. It makes the end. Because notice if you get rid of the end, it's like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Right? Because if you start something, you need to end it, at least in overleaf, in LaTeX. Okay, so begin, center. So this is centered. I don't know. I'm very creative, as you can tell. Ooh, what happened? Okay. Oh, okay. Well, we can demonstrate that again. So see how it's centered? And I didn't have to double space it to get that space. Typically, when you begin a new begin something, it'll put in the spaces for you. So what if I want to write another line, like hello? What is that going to look like? Uh-oh. But over here, I hit enter. Well, that doesn't matter. All you have to do is you click this, and that just means this line ends. This and the next line will not be spaced. See? Oh my goodness, I don't know why that keeps doing it. Oh wait, sorry. You do need to hit enter between them. So they're also indented. This and next line will be spaced. See? Okay, so see how these two are they're not spaced, but then these two are. So you can actually increase that space by like typing how wide you want it to be. So like 12 point, let's say. See how it got a little bit bigger? So you can mess around with that if you'd like. Let's see. what else did I want to talk about? Alright, so another thing you can use to center things is something called centerline. So when it first pops up, it looks like that. And then in the middle, you type what you want to be in the center. So hello world. When I'm doing just text, I prefer begin center. I don't really know why, but if I'm doing something that's mathy, so something that I'll introduce to you later is how to do diagrams and things. You know what, maybe I'll introduce it now. Okay, so here up top before the document starts, I just introduced these new things, and I'll show you in a second what that allows us to do. So in centerline, now I do XY matrix, so that also has this. So I just like working in between them so I can keep track of whose end parenthesis is who, or end bracket. So, man, this is going to be interesting. So, let's say A, arrow to the right, B, and then arrow, let's say, down to the left, and then C, arrow up. So if this is not making a whole lot of sense, that's okay. But see, just with this little bit, I get to do all that. So the center line allows it to be in the center, which always makes it look a lot nicer. And then XY matrix allows me to make this cool little diagram that I have here. So for this class, I'm not so sure how much you're going to need to know this stuff, but I love it. I use it a lot. So these ampersands, they create spaces, like horizontal spaces. So if I got rid of this, first off, it'd be super confused because it wouldn't know where those arrows were going, but also see how A and B are on top of each other now. So it's A, B. So in order to tell it, I want B to go into the next spot. I have to do that. So if I wanted like D all the way over there, but maybe no arrows going to or from it, boom. See how they're all equally spaced? So I can just keep doing that over and over again. I can add stuff to the left of A, but if I add stuff to the left of A and I still want C's arrow to be going to A, I need to change that. So like let's say I want another arrow coming from C going to D. Okay, so I want the arrow to go up and then right, right. So I need U, an R, and an R, but it doesn't really matter what order they're in. Okay, so wherever you start the arrow, that's wherever you do the command arrow, that's where it's going to start, and then you tell it where it's going. So if you just type in XY matrix LaTeX into Google, you find these really awesome resources that help you know how to curve arrows or make arrows dotted lines or all kinds of crazy stuff. One last thing. Oh, so this, just like the center above, this just says, okay, this is the end of this line. Now I'm going to start the next line down. Okay. Whoops. Didn't mean to do that. That's weird. Okay. So one last thing is if I want to label this arrow, so let's say I want to call it F. I can do the upper F, I can do lower F, but just like in normal math mode, so that's another thing I forgot to say. So when you're in XY matrix, you don't have to put the $signs because XY matrix already assumes you're in math mode. So in fact, it's almost the opposite. So if you, well, it is the opposite. So if you wanted to have words in here for some reason, well, it's going to be math mode words. Okay, so it's going to be this like all squiggly thing. So you would need to say text, start bracket, oops, end bracket, and then it would do it for you as normal text. Okay, so it's already assuming you're in math mode, so you don't need to worry about that. So just like before with math mode when we were talking about this lower index and higher index things, if you wanted to say like FG or something, well, you would need to put it in brackets or else it's going to think that G is a part of this A that you have here. Okay, so you would just need to put it in brackets. And so let's say you were like, well, Danica, that's all fine and dandy, but actually I want to call something lower and above. So let's say, I don't know, H. So you could just do that. And so this is true also after you leave XY matrix. So if we go back up, did I show an example like this? No, I did not. Okay. So let's add something in real quick. So let's say I want y sub I squared or something like that. Ooh. See how it looks? So it might look weird. It might look like, oh, well, I'm raising the I to the 2. Well, remember, this thing right here is only going to look at the very next thing, unless you put brackets. So if I really did want it to be lower I squared, I would put brackets like that. Do you see how we're lower indexing I squared? So now look at what that looks like. It looks weird, but maybe if I put it, maybe if I like did an exponent, maybe that would look more normal. And I'll have both here for you to look at. But yeah. Okay, so what was I talking about? Oh yeah. So the XY stuff, you might not even need this at all for the class, but I use this all the time. So especially if you're going to make a resume or something, justify I command hfill. So hfill and then hello. Boom. So it's just backslash hfill. Similarly with vfill. So H just means horizontal. So vfill, hello. So it just brings it to the end of the page. So if we did new page here, so then we push all this to the next page. And now see, it just fills all the space vertically that it has, and then it puts the next thing. Okay? So that's kind of interesting.